Thank you for being here. Want to start by, again, one more time, thanking the fans at Autzen, making it a special year in 2019. And, anytime you could close out a season undefeated at home means a lot. It means a lot, and they're certainly a huge part of it. They had a huge role in making that happen. Grateful for them, and looking forward to seeing them, a bunch of them, this Friday in Santa Clara. That being said, very proud of our players. They've earned the opportunity that they have on Friday to have the opportunity to play for a Pac-12 championship against an excellent football team. Our guys are excited for the challenge and the opportunity. Real good practice today. In terms of injuries and personnel, Jake Hansen has been full go, is practicing and will play. Linebacker Drew Mathis is practicing full go and will play. And Dawood Davis practice half of practice. He's still to be determined later this week. Aside from that, open to questions.
Front left, James.
Going back to last Saturday, Mario, to the passing game, how much of it was, looking back at film, on execution? How much of it was on any play calling? Because at least in the first half, there was a lot of dependency on second and long passing. And while over the course of the season, you guys have done very well on second down passing and in third and 7 and 9, third and even 10-plus passing. When it wasn't working and the ground game was, do you think you should have gotten away from it even earlier than you did, and how much of it was execution?
Well, I think that when you have a quarterback like we do and you run the ball effectively, you have to continue to try to take a shot. You have to continue to try to push the ball down the field. Not all of it down the field, but you still have to make sure that you maintain some type of balance so that your running game continues to be effective. But, we didn't perform to our standard. We know that. We gave up some really routine situations and opportunities that we usually convert on, and it's not good enough, and it's on all of us. It's a little bit of everything. So, as you know, we don't play the blame game over here, but you've seen enough tape to know that, the things that we've done really well, we were off, and we were off not by much, but off by this much means that you gave up 21, 28 points that you could have scored and should have scored, but we didn't do it. So there is no comfort in almost doing it. Just got to get better.
Mario, Kyle Winningham mentioned on the coach's call that his defense has played the fewest snaps of any in the country, 600 and some snaps, and obviously they're fresh. Do you think time of possession is a big deal in this game, or how do you kind of view that stat?
The time of possession is important in any game. Some games obviously roll differently than others. Part of them having so few snaps is they get off the field quickly, right? They are statistically the best or right at the top of, the very best in the country in just about every defensive statistical category. And at the same time, their offense does a great job, controlling the line of scrimmage, controlling the clock as they need. They've kind of had their way offensively. And at the same time, they push the ball down the field. I mean, they take some shots. They're very accurate with their downfield stuff, created explosive plays a number of different ways. And that combination is a very difficult combination. And so when you enter a game like this, your plan has to, be ready to take on those particular aspects, because if a team like that has their way and plays to their strengths, it makes it a difficult situation.
All right, Jerry.
Yeah, Coach, against Arizona State and Oregon State, the offense basically scores one touchdown each in of the games in the first three quarters. How much is there any correlation between Jake Hansen being out? As you looked at you always have missed assignments you looked at every game, but were there more, or how much of an effect do you think? That's the one common denominator you would think in the offense, that he wasn't there.
Well, Jake is an excellent player. I think anytime you lose a guy that touches the ball on every single play, there's going to be an impact. There's going to be an effect. But I thought that Calvin Throckmorton played really, really well. So some of the hiccups that we have had, I wouldn't say it's due to that. I'd say it's the simplicity of making sure that the margin of error on your execution has got to be minimized, especially when you come down the stretch and you're playing down towards the end of the seasons, when there's enough tape on you, where sometimes teams could zero in on you, and sometimes you just got to make sure you execute because guys are playing well. So, but either way, we know we gotta do a better job. We've had some really great moments this year, and judging by today's practice, the things we're doing, feel confident that our guys are ready to play and play well.
All right, Julie.
What does it mean to you personally to take this program, this team back to a Pac-12 title game?
Well, I'd like to think of it first and foremost as like we have taken it. I don't live a very humble life, and this is it's a collective effort. Everyone's involved, everybody. I mean, from the guys up in those lifts up there filming practice and some of that weather that we go to, the nutritionists and whatnot preparing the hydration drinks. This is it's such a collective. I mean, I'm talking about a very family-driven organization, and I'm excited for everybody, and at the same time, still just very hungry because we feel like the trajectory is just it continues to go up and up and up, and at the rate at which our players are developing, both in the classroom and on the football field, at the rate that we're acquiring talent, it's just really exciting. It makes you want more and more and more. So, when we got here, obviously there were some things to fix and get on track, but Oregon's been great for a long, long time. And so we feel very obligated to uphold that legacy and that standard, and we're driven to do so.
Coach, I'm curious, both teams have a short week this week, but how much stress does it put on you, your coaching staff, and the players to have a short week with such a huge game coming up on Friday?
Well, it's a good question. You certainly can't squeeze an extra day in there because you could probably hurt your team more than help it. Just coming off a game and having to get back on there a day earlier at this point in the year, right? I mean, it's difficult enough as it is during the regular season, but as you get to this part of the year, if you have some guys banged up, 24 hours is a lot. It's a long period of time, and sometimes it's the difference between a guy being on the field or not. So you have to really, really plan it out thoroughly. I mean, think of every possible aspect as it affects the performance of the players, and with the goal being peaking on Friday. So you can't compromise work, but you can't overload it. You have to stay physical in practice, but you can't overdo it. So we find that balance, and we depend on our sports science team, and at the same time, we depend a lot on our old school mentality that there's no substitute for working, right? There's no substitute for effort and for physicality. And, we totally understand that we are playing an extremely talented and physical football team, and that our team always knows that nothing but our very best will ever be good enough.
Front left, James.
With the last two games, Mario, there's been a little bit more of a possession style of offense from both ASU and OSU. Obviously, Stanford tried that earlier in the season as well. Is there a concern at all that, I understand usually there's a talent gap associated when teams employ a possession style that probably won't be the case Friday or in the postseason? Is there a concern at all, though, strategically, because that does put up, for instance, the kicking game, it puts more stress. Mm-hmm. And is that, when the kicking game is having a hard time in the red zone, put more stress on you in the decision-making of whether or not to go for 50-50 on a kick and it's worth 3, 52-47 and potentially 6? Does possession style of offense combined with your kicking game just present some challenges?
First, he's talking about stress. You're talking about pressure. I mean, this should be a very exciting moment. Let's talk about excitement and enthusiasm about playing for a championship and the opportunity. Teams play so different defensively in this conference. This is about as a wider range of defensive schemes as you'll ever see, right? You play against Wazoo, and they're whipping movement and pressure from all over the place. You play a Washington, they're sitting those 4 eyes and trying to knock you back, right? You have some teams that play a combination of both, but all very, very different. So what you do offensively, you got to put yourself in the best position to have an opportunity to just keep the sticks moving and create big plays. And sometimes it requires tempo, and sometimes it requires you to find the best play or have plays called that have options without over-optioning yourself either, too, because you could option yourself right into a negative play if you're not careful. So there's a balance here. There's a balance. And for us throughout the week, we find what we feel our team, our offense is doing most effectively, where we can expose a particular defense, and we roll with that. And while we do that, we also implement all the adjustments to the answers that we expect to see from dating back to, way back in old Oregon when teams have played against tempo, when teams have played against a slow it down offense. So, but we feel confident about that plan, and that's how we roll with it.
couple off-field questions. How do you handle the conference championship? You want to be here, but recruiting is also going on right now, and everyone else is out to go see guys. How do you handle that? How does that change your operation for this week? And then I guess, secondly, coaching also changes are happening, and some of your guys have been mentioned as candidates at other positions. How do you handle that as well, as you still have work to do and they're getting interest?
Yeah, I think that the model, it's almost like the NFL model, right? The NFL model is designed so every team is 8-8, right? It's like if you have a really good record, your schedule gets harder and you draft later. But if your record isn't so well, it's designed to kind of create parity. And I think when a team goes to the championship, you lose out on the week of traveling and recruiting. You do, so that's difficult. Now, we had a lot of official visits throughout the course of the season and had a bunch this past weekend as well, knowing that we were going to have to jump right into preparation. So we managed it really well. You know, guys got in here and their families got in here on Thursday night, where they had Friday and Saturday here, and flew out early Sunday morning. So we were able to get right to work Saturday late evening and all day yesterday. So we felt like we haven't skipped a beat. Now, there are still some unofficial visitors in town, but that can't ever stop. You know, that can't ever stop. You have to be able to balance both, even if it requires you, you know, to really cut back on your sleep time, whatever it takes. You have to do it. That's just our philosophy. So that being said, the coaching carousel, I mean, that's never going to go away. It's always going to be what it is. And we have really good relationships in here, and opportunities are going to come up for coaches. And I'm always in favor of helping guys if they have a better situation, a better opportunity to better their careers as it relates to their goals and their families. Now, I can't agree that there's any better opportunity than being here at Oregon, right? So I'll always be very honest, but I always ask the staff, is like, don't ever let me hear it, you know, on the street. Don't let me hear it third person. I always want to have that type of relationship so that we always know what's up and, you know, feel good about where we're at as a staff, the continuity that we've had, and you always fight to keep recruit elite staff, because that's ultimately going to make the biggest difference. Hope I got all the answers in there, man. I was trying to, you know.
On the right, Jerry.
Okay, some excitement about Friday that you wanted
There
to
you
talk
go.
about.
All right, appreciate you, man.
The possible too much excitement, considering the bulletin board locker room comments by Utah's tight end. How do you handle, and I understand if you want to say no comment in order to give them some, how do you handle comments like that, the stereotype locker room motivation, and would that cause the players to get too excited and have a replay of SC where things get a little too out of hand? Just how do you handle that kind of thing?
I think where we are as a program, and where we've always been trying to head, is that external motivation is it's a very shallow pool of fuel and passion. It's got to come from within. I mean, if you need extra motivation to get ready for a conference championship game, you know, you might want to check your pulse and go to the doctor and maybe stay in the hospital for a few days, right? You may not be very well. So for us, we don't get into that. And if you ask our leaders, they will adamantly tell you that they don't care to hear it. It has absolutely nothing with their next rep in practice in Indy. It has absolutely nothing with their next one-on-one rep when the receivers are working with the DBs or the O-line with the defensive line. So we respect everybody, but we are all about our business, and that's all that matters to us.
Right, Ryan.
Mario, do you feel like you and Kyle are kind of kindred spirits in the way you want to build programs, with the emphasis on the line of scrimmage, and how similar are these two teams with the senior leadership and you know, winning on offense, defense, and special teams this year?
Well, again, it's hard unless you're within the walls of a program to know exactly what goes on. But I've said it, you know, often, is that tremendous amount of respect, you know, for Coach Whittingham and his program and how they play the game, because that's always your resume, right? When you put on the tape, what are you putting on tape, right? How do you play the game? Do you play it with passion? Do you play it with toughness? Do you play it with energy? And certainly, you know, tremendous amount of respect for him and his program.
Front left, James.
Some personnel questions for them for Friday. Offensively, you didn't face Hundley and Moss last year. They're obviously two of the best players at their positions in this conference. What do you have to do defensively to handle them, since you didn't face them a year ago? And on their defense, obviously their defensive line, led by Anai, is terrific. You have probably the best offensive line. What do you see from that matchup on that side of the ball?
Well, I mean, you're talking about two difference makers. I actually watched these guys play in high school. I was still at the other place in Tuscaloosa when those guys were at Hallandale High, and of course all three of the teammates, Simpkins as well. Those guys have been extraordinary players for a long, long time, and they've developed tremendously in their systems. So players like that, obviously, there's schematically, and then from an effort standpoint, you've got to be at your best, because if those guys are able to play their best games, they certainly have created a lot of problems for a lot of people. For us, we just feel that them as a defense overall, they're is the most talented defense that we have faced. They cover you, they bring pressure, they disguise pressure. They don't need to bring pressure at times. They've really done an excellent job controlling and dominating the line of scrimmage on the defensive side of the ball. I know they're number one in the country against the run, but every other statistic is 1, 2, 3, or 4. I mean, they're up there. So these are mature bodies. These are big guys, but that are explosive, that are very athletic and agile. They do a great job with their hands. They do a great job technically. Okay, that's what really stands out. They're coached really well, and they make it really tough. They make it really tough for people to get any push at the line of scrimmage. They make it very tough for quarterbacks to step up in the pocket. They create short edges. They do a great job.
Right here, middle, Warren.
Coach, Jake coming back is certainly going to add to your offense. Any more additional emphasis this week on offense, considering maybe the play that you had against Oregon State? I'm also curious, Herm Edwards released 3 of his coaches, his offensive coaches. I'm paraphrasing him, but he said, college football, you need to score 30 points now, not 20, but 30 points. Where do you stand on that, and any other additional emphasis on offense this week?
Well, I mean, to me, is we're always going to have our own parameters, and we're also going to make our own decisions as it relates to us, and we follow no other pattern, no other blueprint. Proud of the way our guys and our coaches have prepared our football team to win 10 games and get to this point. And every single week, we emphasize offense, defense, and special teams, and playing as a team to the maximum. Because at the end of the day, the goal is you must find a way to win the game. And we have found a way to win in numerous ways. And that's what it takes sometimes at this time of year. So, but in terms of emphasis, every single week, every single day, right? Optimum, nothing but our very best.
On the left, Matt.
You mentioned how sometimes they don't need to bring pressure to get pressure on an opposing quarterback. How important is it for your offensive line to protect Herbert, but then at the same time run the ball well, so they have to bring pressure to either stop the run or stop the pass to open up some one-on-one situations?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, play up front on both sides too. I can't say enough great things about their offensive line. It's a big physical group. Our guys take pride in being a big physical group. So this is what you love a championship opportunity to be, is one team's best against another team's best, and really, really important, right? Always going to be at a premium line of scrimmage play.
Time for 3 more. On the right, Jerry.
Yeah, would it be an accurate observation to say the other team's bootlegs hurt you a little bit against ASU and OSU, and have you, obviously, I'm sure, will you try to remedy that? But do you think that would be an accurate statement?
Well, they got us. They caught us one time in a coverage we felt we had a chance to really make a good play on it. They broke the pocket, and launched that ball out there on a double move and got us. When you study a quarterback, you always want to study, well, which way is he best throwing the ball? Some quarterbacks throw really well when they're right-handed and roll to their right, and not so well when they go to the left. So the protection, the design of the play, the ability to pull a quarterback up, especially one that could run, all that stuff's going to be at a premium now, because if you give, a guy like their quarterback time to throw the ball or to break, contain, and use his feet, that's a problem. It's a problem. It's a double-edged sword, right? But it all begins with eye discipline, right? Aligning the right way and making sure that you keep your eyes on your keys and finish the play.
Left, James.
Two-parter to follow up on what Matt was asking before about some coaching changes. Can you confirm that Prentice has left the program
Yes.
for another opportunity? Secondly, I'd asked Kyle this earlier, but to give you more time probably to hear, that Chris Peterson has stepped down to take a different role at Washington, and Jimmy Lake is taking over. I realize he's a rival, but there's still some respect here, clearly. what was your reaction to what is widely viewed as shocking news today?
Yeah, I mean, I just literally got off the field and was coming up here when I heard the news. Tremendous amount of respect for Coach Peterson. And you know what? He's had a great career and certainly wish nothing but the best for him and his family.
Back middle.
Coach, this is the second time you face a top 15 team on a neutral field. How much does that Auburn game come in the dividends for a game like this?
That game was really valuable for us. It really was, because you spend an entire offseason and you really don't know, but you want to know. And your nerves, right, they're through the roof, and trying to find a way to settle yourself and settle the team down. And once you kind of get rolling and you realize we belong in this fight, right? We belong in this battle. That really helped really kind of launch our season in the direction that it went.